Welcome back, football fans, to another episode of Necessary Roughness brought to you by Stadium Rant. We are back at it with our mock off seasons. Today we've got picks 3 and 4 in the upcoming 2023 NFL Draft, the Colts and the Cardinals. I'm your host, John Boyd, joined as always by my co-host, Nick Winograd. And today, for this special occasion, we have resident Colts expert Kev with us today to help talk me through my plan for the Colts here and give us a little insight from a fan. So before we get into all of that, let's touch on some news topics and then we'll get into the same routine as last week. So jump into the comments down below if you agree, disagree with any of the moves we've got. And we'll have a live mock draft at the end too. So stick around for that and chat us up. We'll be talking ball for about an hour here. So first things first, we've got some news coming out in the last couple of days. But let's talk quarterbacks first, and we'll start with Derek Carr to the Saints. 4 years, 150 mil. They've still got to get under the cap by the start of the league year, so that's a really interesting piece of that. But Nick, I'll start with you. What do you think about the fit there? And, do you think that, to what extent do you think that helps the Saints this upcoming season and going forward, as opposed to like some combination of Winston and Dalton and Taysom Hill, but under center?
Yeah. I like the move. I really thought that he was going to end up in New York because I just like they were really praising him a lot out there in Jetland. So I had a feeling that somehow, some way they were going to get him. But at the same time, the Saints needed a quarterback as well. Like this whole thing with Dalton and, as you said, with Taysom Hill, and this thing's just not working out. And ever since Drew Brees retired, it's just been a different franchise. It's felt like, obviously, with the loss of Sean Payton as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a good fit. I think that he goes to a place where he's, again, able to play in a dome-type setting where he doesn't really have to play his games outside. So, yeah, I think that to get off of Andy Dalton, finally, a guy who is obviously at the end of his career, doesn't have what he used to have, getting a guy like Derek Carr, who's proven to be a Pro Bowl-type quarterback, caliber quarterback, within the kind of confines of his career, I think that it's a good move for them. I think they needed this type of move, just kind of like jolt their offense a little bit, because I thought their defense played decently well last year. It's just they had some problems offensively getting the ball to guys that they needed to. So I think that Derek Carr, he'll be a good like culture type franchise change. I hope for them. Yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, a little stability anyway. Kev, do you have any takes immediately on the Derek Carr signing, whether it's the money or the fit?
Yeah, on the opposite side, or additionally, I would say, Derek Carr's finally going to have a defense to play with him, right? The best defense he's ever had was 20th, I think. So, like as Nick said, as you both said, a little stability on that side of the ball. I think this is a good fit. That division seems to be ripe for the taking, in my opinion. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Saints, add several wins to their record on next year. I think this is a playoff team right away. I believe in Derek Carr. I've got some dear friends who are Raiders fans who tell me that he's still got a little bit left in the tank. So as far as the contract goes, I don't know. What do you think? Is that a good? I was surprised to see that many years, and I think that number looks bigger than it is in today's NFL. But what do you think? Was that a good deal for the Saints?
I'm going to be interested to see the way it breaks down with guarantees and everything like that, how far those are pushed out. But yeah, I think him pairing with a good defense, I think you go out and you pay market value for a guy like Derek Carr. He's a floor raiser, and you got to think of it a little bit more within the context of that division, like you mentioned, more so than league wide, because that's the mindset with a lot of organizations is, hey, if we can get into the dance, anything can happen, right? So let's put ourselves in a position to get there. And I think, unless there's something I'm forgetting, I think the Derek Carr move, as long as they're able to retain guys like Demario Davis and Tyrann Mathieu, they'll have to do some things to get into the green and the cap before the league year starts. But as long as they're able to retain that core on defense, yeah, I think this is a good fit. And these are probably early favorites in a terrible NFC South. So, take that for what it's worth. We got a question from Lee here for Nick, it looks like. You talked about how much you like to fit with Derek Carr. How do you feel about the weapons he joins, Mike Thomas being one of them, who may be a problem here in Lee's eyes? But what are your thoughts there?
I mean, certainly. I mean, this guy is at his best. He could be a top 5 wide receiver in the league, but he's just a guy at this point in his career that's hardly on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that he meshed really well with Drew Brees. I don't know if he would mesh really well with a guy like Derek Carr, just because I think that they're going to have to get off Michael Thomas at some point here. I don't think that he's a good fit in New Orleans anymore. I don't know what he's going to do if they do get off him. I feel like he's almost like one of these Kenny Galladay type players where he was so good for a limited amount of time, goes to another situation. I mean, it obviously isn't a new city, but losing your Hall of Fame quarterback clearly changed the outlook of his career.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been able to get back on the field. He's got so many injury problems, and I think that Derek Carr wants to move forward with a different type of regime now. And obviously, them being the heavy favorites in that really, really porous AFC South, I don't think that Michael Thomas is somebody that the Saints really value as a top tier type of threat for them right now. I think they're moving forward with guys like Callaway and Kamara and guys like that. So Lee, that's a good point. I think that the way to get out of that Thomas situation is just kind of like let go of him. I don't know if they will, but I think that if they get him back on the field, I see it more as a Kenny Galladay type situation than anything else.
Yeah, and the price tag attached to Kenny Galladay was a big part of the problem when he took that big of a step back, and something that is pretty jarring right now. And this is what the Saints do. They kick the can down the road. But as it stands right now, Michael Thomas's 2024 cap hit is $59 million. If they don't touch it. If they were to cut him right now, it's a $26 million dead cap hit that accelerates. So, this is why they pay guys better at math than us to figure that out. But that scares me if I'm a Saints fan, especially with the regression we've seen from a guy like that who used to command. Obviously not a $59 million cap hit, but used to command that big contract. So we'll see how malleable that cap hit is next season. They've got some good nerds in the building though in New Orleans. They've been doing stuff like this every offseason since 2017 when they were kind of going for it every year with Drew Brees. So Lee's with you there, Nick. Real quick, we'll give a shout out to Meg. Thanks for joining us. She's another big Colts fan, covers the Colts for Colts Wire and USA Today, and if any of you remember, used to do this show with us. So Meg, thanks for joining us. Let us know your thoughts down below as we move through the plan for your team. The only other big piece of news I wanted to touch on, just as we kind of cover the entire league, another quarterback domino fell, and that's Geno Smith getting re-signed in Seattle to 3 years, 105. And that's a pretty feasible number for a guy who, again, it doesn't seem like a flash in the pan to me last year. It seems like a guy who just finally got his opportunity and a guy who finally got a coach in his corner. And I mean, he bounced from terrible situation to terrible situation. I think when he went from the Jets to the Giants, all of a sudden, all he was the face of the Eli Manning benching. Then he goes to the Chargers. I think he throws like 14 passes and gets cut. Winds up in Seattle, sits behind Russ. They move on from Russ, and then all the way up until the season started, it was a quarterback battle with him and Drew Lock. And Pete Carroll said as much. Lock ended up getting COVID towards the start of the season, and Geno took it and ran with it. So I'm super happy for the guy. And I think it's a good fit. And hey, if Seattle has a draft class this season, anything like last year's, they're gonna be right back in the mix, I think. But what are your guys' thoughts, Nick? You can go ahead first on the Geno re-signing. Is that something you anticipated? And do you think that takes them out of the quarterback market in the draft, given a 3-year deal?
Okay, so to answer your first question, I think this is a great move. 3 years, he obviously earned it. He played so well. I mean, I feel like in every single game he had it felt like he had a quarterback rating of 100 plus.
Best completion percentage in the
just,
league last year.
Yeah, and he was just so incredible for them, and it was just when they traded Russ, it really looked like, and I said this so many times during the season, it looked like the Seahawks were really going to go downhill, while the Broncos were going to be obviously like playoff contenders. And that's what I think we all anticipated. And Geno just, he really was put under the Pete Carroll really took him under his wing and said, "Hey man, like listen, you got a lot of talent. This is a Seattle Seahawk franchise that doesn't quit. We don't relent. We don't look to just be bottom feeders, and just because we don't have as much talent as we might have used to, that doesn't mean anything, because we still have heart, and what this franchise is all about is that." So I think Geno was really put into a good situation there. He was obviously put into really bad situations throughout his career. Might have not been ready for that New York's limelight when he was first drafted. But I think this was a really good spot for Geno. And I mean, if he didn't get that contract and Daniel Jones did, who we're going to talk about, I think Geno completely earned this. And I think that he's going to do a really good job for them in the next couple of years. I don't think this takes him out of the quarterback market in the draft, however, because they got some late round picks. They can always try to get somebody that can back them up, and look for him after Geno's contract expires, or if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and yeah, I think I'm with you there. It's a pretty straightforward thing with Geno, but it does put you in a spot where you can really comfortably look for a succession plan, a younger succession plan, knowing you have a really solid guy in the building who's a good leader, and he's been in all the quarterback situations. He's been the second stringer, he's been the third stringer, he's been a guy who's in a quarterback battle in the offseason, and now he's been a guy who's the bona fide starter, and he's gotten some money committed to him. So I think it still leaves you very flexible. But it's a guy you can't really just let walk, I don't think, after a season like that. You mentioned Daniel Jones, 4 years, $160 million, 10 more than Derek Carr. It's a $40 million APY, and that's the art of the negotiation. Get your agent to say you want 45 mil, and have him meet you between there and the tag.
Yep.
So I can't believe it, frankly, that they didn't tag him and make him prove it one more time. That was his first year all the way healthy. It was his first year really in any sort of winning environment. And I just hope that they didn't make that decision too lightly and too much of a snap decision, I should say. You've obviously got a great staff in place. Obviously a guy who feels like he knows how to utilize Daniel Jones, but you've got to get him some weapons, and you've got to be banking on him improving when the weapons around him do. I don't necessarily see his growth being so linear. He can make all the throws, and he does have that athleticism, but this one shocked me, to be honest. I thought this was a tag all day. Kev, what are your thoughts on Daniel Jones?
I agree with you. I thought this was a tag all day, but I'll go ahead and play devil's advocate here, because this may be the Brian Daboll effect in place. He's worked his magic before, and maybe if he believes that this is the guy, he's let that be known. And so they've gone ahead and made that investment for, what did you say it's 4 years, correct? Right? 4 years. I too would have liked to have seen it one more year. How many years was Kirk Cousins franchise tagged before he finally got paid?
He got 2 in Washington.
Yeah, he got 2 in Washington, right? I'm surprised, to be honest with you. I thought both quarterbacks were going to get tagged, or maybe Geno might get some sort of 1-year deal. So I'm very surprised to see both of these guys getting 4-year deals. I will say I think Geno was a little more deserving of his. And I'm kind of shocked by this one from New York, but I have faith in Brian Daboll. So well, fingers crossed, Giants fans.
Yeah, and I think he's great too. And the reports aren't all the way out. We'll see about the details of this contract. Maybe there's a potential out after year 2, and maybe it's a little bit less hamstringing to the organization. But Nick, how do you feel about this move when you juxtapose it to a former MVP getting the franchise tag in Baltimore?
Yeah, I mean, that's an awesome question. It's just that I think that so my outlook on this is that Daniel Jones and the Giants seem to be trending upwards, while Baltimore and Lamar Jackson is a little, it's crazy to say, but they're trending downwards. It's like Lamar had this MVP year, then he had a little bit of a hiccup in the playoffs. What happened to Lamar? And then it's like he's not really the same. Maybe we figured him out. Maybe defenses have figured him out. Maybe he's not always going to be like that MVP type season. Obviously, you're never going to be like that every single year. Otherwise, you're going to be one of the all-time greats. Okay, so maybe he's not an all-time great, but he's still an all-pro, like caliber quarterback. I think that at this point, I wrote an article early in the year last season saying, is Lamar back to the MVP level? And it really looked like he was for the first 3 weeks. And then I feel like that Miami game happened where they blew that lead, and it was like it kind of just went downhill from there. They started blowing more leads. The defense wasn't playing the way it used to. Then they obviously got Roquan Smith. It kind of helped them out. But Lamar is just obviously, and then he got hurt. So, it's obviously not been what Baltimore thought it would be after that MVP season. They thought he would just go on a rampage, be one of the top 3 quarterbacks every season with Mahomes, and it would be Mahomes against Lamar. That it just hasn't worked that way. And for Daniel Jones, I think that, Brian Daboll and the Giants trust him and they want to go after him because they put all their chips into him, right? So I think that Baltimore's a lot more scared and a little more, it's a little more scary for them to go after him and just make a commitment to him when he's been so injury prone and hasn't worked out the way they saw it and maybe wanted it to work out. So I think the Giants see a better future in Jones than Baltimore does with Lamar, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore doesn't retain him.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. There were some really disconcerting things that came out of Baltimore upon the release of that NFL Players Association survey, and we saw a lot of players who really just condemned the training staff. And a lot of other things within the organization that, before the peek behind that veil, I think the average fan would have said, that's probably a top 3 organization in football when you just look at the way they draft and develop and you look at their continued success. But how much of that is in our head? They haven't been to an AFC championship game in 10 years. Sure, they've been knocking on the door, but, the offense has been really pedestrian when you consider the explosivity of Lamar, and it's something like what Aaron Rodgers I think has dealt with and Packers fans have dealt with over the last few seasons, where it's like, why aren't we getting this guy more weapons? Why aren't we leaning into what's already a strength? It feels like both of those organizations sort of had the mentality of, okay, we've got our star quarterback. He can kind of shoulder the load on the offensive side, and we can focus on building out the defense and investing resources there. And he can help to kind of figure everything else out. And not only has this been a huge disservice to Lamar on the field, it's been a gigantic disservice to Lamar off of the field. You pay this man, and you pay him now. I don't know why. And again, this has been something where they've exploited his durability, they've exploited his prime, and they've exploited his ability to raise the floor of your offense, and they've left it on the floor from there. So that's something that, especially in light of the rest of the news to come out in the quarterback carousel, really, really rubbed me the wrong way. And if I'm anybody in Lamar's camp, if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm probably pissed. And hey, we don't even know if he's gonna be in purple this upcoming season. So we'll see how this develops. If he requests out, how he feels about it. If I'm a guy like Lamar, that I do not want to be playing on this tag, and he doesn't deserve to be playing on this tag, in my opinion. But that's my take on it. We'll see where that goes. We've heard buzz about Commanders looking for Lamar. Kev likes him to the Colts. I know our buddy Chris likes him to the Colts.
Wouldn't be the first guy to leave Baltimore in the middle of the night for Indianapolis. So come on now. Come on, Lamar. It's got a good history.
The whole franchise did it once. Well, sounds good. So we'll get into a little bit more of that news too once our shelf life on these mock off seasons has expired and we're really just into speculation season after the draft. But for now, let's dive into that. We'll start with our Colts segment, and Kev, feel free to jump in at any time. Anybody in the comments, feel free to shout at any time. But we're going to start with, like I mentioned, fixing the Indianapolis Colts, and that might not be a one-off season thing. But Kevin and I talked pre-show how this team was really disappointing last season. Obviously, there were some health issues, but missing the playoffs the way they did the season prior, and just feeling like the only way to go is up from there. I think this season was just a real gut punch for a lot of Colts faithful. So we're gonna try to just salvage what we've got here. That was sort of my mentality coming in. I think the core is strong at the top, and with it, we just talked about the Seahawks. You come in and knock the draft out of the park. This could be a competitive roster again in 2023. So let's see what I thought of. A couple of in-house moves right away are some restructures. They're not desperate for cap room right now, but they could use a little bit. And I think a restructure of a guy like Braden Smith makes a ton of sense. He did have a bit of a down year from a lot of reports, but who didn't on that offensive line? And he's still young. He plays offensive tackle. He's not going to age out of his prime anytime soon, and we can convert $14.9 million in salary and prorated bonus and a signing bonus and save $9.9 million in 2023. I think you slam that button, and I like a partial restructure of DeForest Buckner to just get his cap hit down by about $4 million. Take about half of his funny money that we've got in the contract and convert that to signing bonus, and prorate that out to save about $4 million to the 2023 cap. Those are the only ones I liked messing with right away. I guess the only other contract in-house that I touched outside of that was I like extending Grover Stewart.
I love that. Love that a lot. Seeing that.
He's an unsung guy around the league. Nose tackle, not a sexy position. And like Kev mentioned, if Chris Ballard said he wanted 53 Grover Stewarts, more people would be a little more familiar with that name. But he is no joke, a top 5 nose tackle comfortably as a run stopper. And I think you keep that a strength. This is probably if not the best, it's one of the 3 best defensive tackle duos in the league. At nose tackle, Grover Stewart's coming into his age 30 season. I like tacking 2 years on to his current deal. 2 years, 31.2 in new money, 14 guaranteed, and that leaves us his total deal setting at 3 years, 42, which I think is plenty reasonable for a guy, 14 a year, plenty reasonable for a guy who's still playing at a high level, and has definitely still got some gas in the tank. But what are your thoughts on those first in-house moves?
Yeah, I am in agreement with you on all of these. I love the love for Grover Stewart. Those of us, however biased we may be, that root for the Colts kind of thought Grover Stewart maybe he might have been a Pro Bowl snub this year. So he was an elite level nose tackle. Him and Buckner, putting them together is just you don't say this a lot in the defensive trenches, but it's poetry in motion to me. I do love that combination, and I will give Braden Smith some slack and say that what it really feels like with that Colts offensive line, although it's really sad to say this for the highest paid offensive line in football, they had two massive holes that really caused everything around them to collapse. I mean, even Quentin Nelson didn't look like Quentin Nelson last year because unfortunately, his head was on a swivel because he had to decide which collapsing hole he was going to have to go and try to save. And then meanwhile, someone walks through his gap because he's turning his head, back and forth, left and right. So we're going to give some of these guys a break. At least I am, and see if some of those two major holes at right guard and left tackle can be plugged. And I think that will, as you like to say, raise the floor of that offensive line. And it certainly needs to be. They got to do a lot of work to raise their money. So restructuring any offensive line deal will make Colts fans happy, I'm sure. But I do think we can see a little bit of a bounce back from Braden this year.
The offensive line in the NFL is like a phalanx. It's only as strong as its weakest link, and you need to cover the guy next to you with your shield from, what is it, shoulder to knee or whatever Leonidas says. And those two holes on the offensive line, it was really, really evident. And you've got three borderline Pro Bowlers on there. One guy who's been All-Pro, and the unit wasn't good, so they've got to figure that out. And a guy who we're not going to give slack to in this exercise is Ryan Kelly. He really did take a step back, and that might be a little bit more to do with him on an individual level. You mentioned Quentin Nelson's head on a swivel. He was having to help to the inside almost as much as he was to the outside. And that saves a pretty significant amount of money. And I think you're able to replace what you got from Ryan Kelly anyway with a pretty bargain bin level guy down the road or potentially in the draft. And it's a pretty natural time to move off of his contract as well. So I think that's a spot they could look to maybe see some improvement there. And that one was a pretty much a no-brainer. But one that hurt me a little bit was cutting Kenny Moore. Nick, you and I have talked about Kenny Moore on this show plenty. But he has zero guarantees to his contract right now, if I'm not mistaken. They're very insignificant otherwise. So it's zero guaranteed. They clear the entire 8.1 upon cutting Kenny Moore, and I think that's going to be pretty attractive, especially when the alternative is probably looking to extend Kenny Moore. Or looking for a trade partner, and unfortunately for him, I think last year was his opportunity to really leverage that into a big time contract, and that was probably it might have been his worst year to date. But Nick, what are your thoughts on moving off of a guy like Kenny Moore for the Colts? I know he's been really important to that secondary, but that was one that I was a little on the fence about.
Yeah, I think there's a decent chance that they move off from him. It's been a long time coming. He's a great safety. He's been a really good player in this league, but each catch is up to you. Situations happen in the NFL where you might be a really good player. Like this just happened with Miami too, where they're cutting Byron Jones. You might be a really good player, and you've been a really good player for this franchise. But it's time that we're moving on, and good luck in your future endeavors. It's not that you're not, capable of playing the safety position for us anymore. It's just that we got to move on from you, and it's a business at the end of the day, and it's tough. But Kenny Moore's been a really good player. I've had a lot of love for him throughout his years in Indy, and I think he's been great. But at the end of the day, there's times where you got to move on, and get somebody else in the building.
Yeah, coming into his 29-year-old season, and it's a really important spot in the defense. How great he's been in the slot, but Yeah, that was one where I feel like they might be biting the bullet and looking to find his long-term replacement, and inject some youth into that core. Another guy, Mo Alley Cox, was just marginalized by two good young tight ends that you guys should be really excited about in Jelani Woods and Grayson. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Granson.
Granson.
Yep.
And both of those guys were plenty productive last year. And like I said, sort of just marginalized the Mo Alley Cox role, and you save almost $3 million. So I think that's just about a no-brainer. And we've got a question in the comments about the quarterback position. And for this reason, I think the Colts do target quarterback in the draft. Spoiler, CJ Stroud's kind of my guy if I were picking a quarterback. So I'm gonna come into this. We're gonna come into this mock hoping for CJ Stroud. I know Kev likes CJ. So Lee, yeah, hopefully we're gonna find out.
With a hope and a prayer, Lee.
But with Nick Foles still on the roster as that veteran guy who could maybe tread water for you if your rookie's not ready. I think you do move off of Matt Ryan and save that 17 plus mil. It's sunk cost at this point, 18 mil dead, but he just wasn't it when you're paying a guy that much and he ends up being a third stringer by the end of the year. You might as well cut your losses. I don't think they'll be able to trade him, but we'll see. Nick has some thoughts, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, but what did I say last week when I was visiting the Bears and what did I say? Bears are going to trade to 4. Indianapolis is going to take the number 1 spot. So Lee, absolutely, they can draft you.
That's what's going to happen.
Okay, of course there's a way they can get them. Just trade it to the Bears. The Bears want that 4 pick, and they want more, in the later rounds. So yeah, absolutely.
Let's see.
CJ Stroud could very well be honest. I don't know what this Lamar talk is. You want CJ or Bryce Young, and you totally have him within your grasp. Chicago does not need a quarterback. They want a guy that can, help them on the defensive interior, defensive exterior, and that's what they're looking for. So if Chicago can move down to 4, grab that and take your franchise quarterback because you're due for them.
I hope they do that. It's the only problem is it's the most anti Chris Ballard thing ever to do. Chris Ballard's over here. He's taking calls from the Bears saying, "No, excuse me, I'm the guy who trades back in drafts, not you. You don't trade back to me. I trade back to someone else. Okay, that's not how this works around here."
So
that's my fear with that. But no, it's well within their grasp. And hey, I hear the Niners are rumored to have interest in Matt Ryan. So Colts, I say we send a 7th round pick along with Matt Ryan and offer to pay some of that money and just say, hey, here's a gift. Enjoy the Bay. Thank you for the memories.
Yeah. All those sweet memories.
All 24 fumbles or whatever.
All right. So some guys we like to keep though. These are the only guys that came to mind, and we'll talk about some other guys who are about to hit the market. But some re-signs for the Colts here. Main reason I went with EJ Speed is he played really well last year. First of all, filling in at times, was a really strong off-ball linebacker along with another young guy, Zaire Franklin, who kind of just popped onto the scene, and I think. When you've got a guy like Bobby Okereke set to hit the market, probably going to command somewhere between 12 to 15 million a year. I think you sort of have to think about return on investment at that point and think about, am I able to get is that money worth the difference in skill between a guy like Bobby Okereke and a guy like EJ Speed? Because Speed, I think you'll be able to get at a pretty reasonable number, something like 5-6 mil a year, and probably have relatively similar production, especially when you're expecting Shaquille Leonard back. The back injury's terrifying, but it's tough to invest further long term into the second level of that defense. Dealing with that issue as it is right now with Shaquille, and I think you go young there, and you keep trying to hit on these developmental young linebackers that have been paying dividends in the last couple of years and really been thrust into starting roles with some injury and played pretty well. So I think you roll with that, keep EJ. Gus Bradley's back to coach the defense, so we shouldn't expect much different from those guys. That should be upward trajectory. Speaking of upward trajectory, I like hanging on to Paris Campbell. And this was between him and Ashton Doolin. I think you want to keep one of them. And I think Campbell is the way to go. You started to see him come into his own a little bit more this year. And I think he's just a much more complementary skill set to your outside guys and Pittman and Pierce. Pittman, of course, can play some big slot when you've got these guys on the boundary. Paris Campbell feels like that perfect gadget receiver to round out that room. And he should be a guy you're able to retain for cheap because he hasn't really popped yet. He's got plenty of athleticism
on the field, yeah.
Yeah, and you got to still think there's something there. And when you look at the market, I don't think anybody's going to really ball out for Paris Campbell when you've got a guy like McCole Hardman hitting the market, who's similar, but he's a little more proven, and some other guys there. So I think they'd be able to keep him for cheap. And I think you're going to want to keep him in-house. He was a guy who was really exciting coming out, and we just kind of saw a glimpse of it. So I think they hang on to him and see what else he can show them over the course of this pretty affordable contract that we
hope so. He was top 10 in the league in separation last year. So he's getting open. So it's not even though Colts fans and the front office are just happy to see Paris play a full season, because that was the number one issue. Was he's got, big play potential all day long, but he couldn't string a season together. So that was great to see him get 60 plus receptions, around 600 yards, despite the fact that he didn't really get going right away. But it wasn't for a lack of getting open. He was getting open in droves at times throughout the season. So don't tell anyone outside of Indianapolis that, if you guys don't mind. I'd much rather them not know it. But yeah, Paris Campbell 100% on this list. I do love the EJ Speed thing, by the way, for everything that you said. It's the right math decision, I think. But Paris Campbell, as far as who we've talked about, that's my biggest priority. I think that's a great value. I think that's a diamond in the rough. What do they call that in Madden when you find a guy with the hidden trait gem or whatever?
Yeah.
Paris Campbell is that guy for the Colts right now.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you there. And then another guy that I think makes sense to retain, especially when you consider Gus Bradley coming back. This is a guy who Gus Bradley had follow him from Vegas over to Indy. And that was one of the first things he did when he got the job. Well, not that it was all his decision, but it was the first move. One of the first moves they made was trading Rocky Sin for Unique Ngakoue. And he was productive. I think you retain him for about $16 million a year, and there's nothing else at edge. Also, they need depth there. I like Dayo Odeyingbo. He actually made a lot of plays against my Vikings. I was like, who is this guy? But I've done some research on him since, and I like what he brings. But they're going to need an edge one for sure, and they're going to need to fill out some of that depth in the draft. So I think you keep the relatively sure thing and Unique, and he's probably still not going to be a 3-down guy, especially as his career starts to dwindle a little bit. But he's still, he can still rush the passer from the wide 9 and do some damage. So I think he's a guy, what you're getting, and market value isn't crazy for a guy like that. But that leaves the Colts with $57 million in cap space as they approach free agency. Anything, viewers and co-hosts, anything I missed, do you think? Any other players who should get some consideration in-house before we look to free agency?
I'll double check my in-house list, but I think you got
Rodney McLeod's a free agent. I don't think Colts fans are happy with Faison.
Nope. We're good there. Yeah. Don't even mention the name Pryor. There's certain names everybody's like, hey, awesome. There's a few. Nothing personal. I'm sure they're all great people.
Yeah, that's about it. Another guy I think we should touch on really quick is Stephon Gilmore, who's another potential cut candidate, only because of the way his contract looks right now. Last year, the deal saves 9.9, only a $2 million dead cap hit. And I don't know. I like, from an Indianapolis perspective, I like hanging on to Stephon Gilmore, having him ride out that contract. 33-year-old season, but he was still really solid last year in coverage. I think he's got a little bit of juice left, and again, it's kind of one of those things where there's nothing else really there. I think you hang on to your best veteran player in the room and work to fill out your depth around that guy. But again, maybe it's something where, and we'll see what the direction of the team is, and the mentality coming from the front office down. Smart, maybe he wants to go play with a real Super Bowl contender, and maybe he doesn't see that here. Maybe he likes the direction of the team and wants to kind of roll all in. Lee Harding, with a very objective take. Gilmore is old, 33-year-old season, but
it's true.
I think that probably precludes them from extending Gilmore. But I think the two options are letting him play out this contract, retaining him for this season, and having him as your best corner on the roster, or looking to trade him, looking to cut him, taking feelers that way. But I elected to just keep him on the roster for this exercise. So we'll see how that affects the rest of our plan here. Free agents will run through relatively quickly. I like Jake Brendel as an affordable Ryan Kelly replacement. Kind of came out of nowhere and took the San Francisco starting job last year out of camp, and played really well. So I think he's a pretty cheap option to come in and replace Kelly. I think he'd non-guarantee 2024 and see what he proves in 2023 and kind of go from there. I like just getting a veteran wide receiver into the room because it's so young, with Campbell and Pierce and Pittman. So getting a guy like Marvin Jones from Jacksonville, a guy you just saw a couple times, he's still got a little bit of juice, and definitely a heady leader in the wide receiver room. And then, a lot of these are pretty one-for-one. I like replacing Kenny Moore with a guy like Emmanuel Mosley, who was really solid in the slot in San Francisco before going down with an injury last year, and sort of forcing their hand to move a safety into the slot and play that way. And they might have some trepidation in extending him coming off that injury. But I think whoever gets him is going to get a good player in return. And I think you're able to get him for a relatively affordable, and slot corner is such an important position on the defense. And the other guy, like I said, we're really thin at edge looking at this roster. Another Jacksonville guy, Arden Key, who kind of just earned a long-term contract last season after coming out of LSU and having a pretty underwhelming first few seasons. But I think you're going to get pretty good value signing him to a long-term deal because he's got a lot more room to grow, and I think he's sort of just starting to knock on that door. So that was kind of a sleeper pick there, but I think you add a young edge to that room with some room to grow, and then maybe look to the draft for depth. But any thoughts, guys, on those fits and/or money situations?
I like these a lot, especially. You took the right approach. You've addressed a lot of the needs. One especially to talk about the wide receivers a bit, because that was an area that I focused on writing for the Colts last year. Marvin Jones, I do think, would be a good fit. I spent some time covering that Jacksonville squad as well, and there's just no room for him there. He's not going to be out of a job there because he's bad, but they have Calvin Ridley coming in. Zay Jones was already had already eclipsed him as the number 2. So I do think that's a guy, like you said, that has some left in the tank. He's had some good years going back a ways now, even before Jacksonville. He's had some good years on some not so great teams, so he's maybe gonna fly under the radar. I like that a lot better than what I've seen. I've seen people throw Robert Woods' name out there as a Colts potential veteran receiver. I think I'd rather have Marvin Jones than Robert Woods in that scenario. And then I do like the idea of adding. I love the Arden Key edition as well. So yeah, I'm happy with what you did there. I like that.
Cool. Yeah, these are sort of just, you just kind of take a few priority free agents and just to give you some semblance of how the roster might look coming into this live mock. And Lee's with us. It was coaching those first 2 years. I think now he's sort of been able to come into his own a little bit and getting him into this Gus Bradley defense. I think lining him up opposite Ngakoue could actually be a pretty strong edge duo. And we've got a really strong duo on the inside of that defensive front. So getting somebody to collapse the pocket from the outside, make him step up into those long arms, getting in a little bit more even pressure and do that way. And then you've got a guy like Dayo Odeyingbo as edge 3 and maybe a drafted guy. I think that's suddenly turned into a really strong rotation. So Lee's with us there.
And one last free agent I'll throw in there before we go. Just maybe a little bit of fantasy drafting on my part. But if the Colts do find themselves in need of a new bridge quarterback, which in my opinion I would like to see all of the quarterbacks in the room go away, I wouldn't mind seeing a Gardner Minshew reunion for a year or two as a little backup bridge quarterback for the Colts. So no Marcus Mariota. I've seen that in some articles. I don't want to see that anymore, please.
Yeah, he was an underwhelming cat this year, wasn't he? Next, we'll turn it over to Nick here, and he'll talk us through his Cardinals rebuild before we jump into our draft. So we are going to now start fixing the Arizona Cardinals, and I think this is a very different situation. First of all, because this 2023 season is kind of a wash. 2023 season is kind of a wash because we're expecting Kyler to miss most of it. And we've got and something I didn't mention at the top of the show, we've got both Eagles coordinators that we're rebuilding for here now. So that's kind of a fun piece with this. But for Jonathan Gannon's team, it's kind of year one's kind of like okay, let's see what we can do here. And I think it's kind of setting yourself up for a strong 2024 offseason. So in that sense, here's some of the first couple moves Nick made with this roster here. So talk us through your thoughts here.
All right, let's go. So first thing we're doing is we're gonna trade D-Hop. We're not gonna cut him just because he doesn't deserve to be cut. That doesn't really make any sense. But they're shopping him obviously. So my move is to trade him for a third rounder to Chicago. Chicago's a team that desperately needs some receiver help. Obviously, I fixed them last week. I did my best, and we got a really good receiver in the draft that I really like. But if we can get D-Hop, now that receiver that we draft is going to learn from him a little bit, and guys like Chase Claypool are also going to be put in a better situation. And it would be a huge get for Justin Fields and just his progression and development in his career. So that's my first move. Then we're gonna what are we doing with DJ? We're trading DJ Humphries as well. Since his cap is like near around $18 million. So it's nice to trade him. Obviously they're gonna lose cap space by cutting him. So I'd rather get like a 5th or 6th here. Trading DJ Humphries, the left tackle. Then I'm gonna cut. The guys I'm gonna cut is Robbie / Chosen Anderson. I'm gonna cut him.
Yep.
His name alone just annoyed me, so I'm gonna cut him. He's out of here. And then I'm going to extend Hollywood Brown. I think that he did a really good job for Arizona last season after being dealt from Baltimore. So I think he deserves that. The weird thing is that I'm going to cut J.J. Watt. Yeah, he retired, but his contract still has a cap hit because of the voiding years. So, which is really interesting to me. So we're going to cut him. Obviously, he's not a player anymore. I'm not going to trade him back to Houston or anything like that. And then we're gonna cut Marcus Golden. Obviously he's making more than like $3 million in 2023. So he only had 2.5 sacks last year. He's not really the guy he used to be. We're gonna cut him. And that's the moves I'm gonna make trading or cutting guys. Obviously, the guys that we want to retain. You want to get somebody like You want to get somebody like Ngakoue in free agency. I think that would be a nice one to add.
Yeah, edge a big need.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Arizona fans talk to me about wanting Javon Hargrave, but that would be a splash move, obviously. He's a prized piece. And it would be awesome to select controversial Jalen Carter with the 3rd overall pick. I mean, I don't know if he's going to drop to like 11 or 12 now, but I still think that he's a premier player in this draft. So if I go over to his camp and talk to him a little bit, talk to his dad, maybe see what's going on in that family. Jalen Carter, you're a good kid. I want you with my 3rd overall pick. We're going to get you. And then overall in the draft, I'm going to just focus on defense, and because that's really the need for Arizona right now. I think that at the end of the day, Jonathan Gannon, he's a defensive guy. I'm all over the place. He's a defensive guy. He's really going to look for that defensive spark in his first season. And yeah, as you said, it's a wash year. We have nothing to lose. And I like that for Gannon. He comes in, he has got really no pressure. Even if he goes 0-17, they're not going to fire him. I mean, they might, but I don't think they will. So so I think that he's got a good opportunity here just to kind of prove that he's not a clown kind of that he showed in that first few days on the job. I don't think he is. I think he's a good coach. And I think that he'll do a good job. I think that if he can win 5 to 6 games with his porous personnel, I think that's a good stepping stone for them. Get Kyler back, try to get somebody I don't know, somebody in the draft that can help the wide receiver room a little bit, along with Hollywood Brown. And at the end of the day, I think they'll have a good start to Jonathan Gannon's career here in Arizona.
Yeah, and what's great about those, and it doesn't, again, we're sort of building for 2024 with that roster, the way you framed it to me. Between Hopkins and DJ Humphries moves, it doesn't give us too much in 2023, but between the two of those guys, that clears $46 million in 2024 space. So again, you're attacking that window more than you are 2023. So you're kind of planning on, hey, when Kyler gets back, that's when we'll be ready to go. So, and I like the Marquise Brown extension. Something that's market value would be about $16 million a year. So maybe 3 years, that'll extend him to about his age 30 season. So that makes plenty of sense there. And he's obviously a pretty good fit with Kyler when you think about just skill set, just that deep burner, a guy who's going to be there when you extend the play, right? He's going to find a way to shake open when you extend that play, and Kyler can sling it deep. We know that. So again, this one was a little bit, some fewer ins and outs to this one, just because you're planning out a little bit further, but with all that, I think we can jump into our mock draft here. We kind of know the parameters we're working around, and Kev, I'll pretty well defer to you on our picks, at least get your input as much as I can, just because your thumb is on the pulse a little bit more. And I like the Pro Football Network mock draft the most, just at least the way it functions. But There may, and this is updated since the combine. We may still see some unrealistic fallers, but hey, there's stuff we didn't expect all the time that comes out of the draft. So we'll just roll with it and see what we can do here. So let me get my screen shared, and we will jump on in. How's it looking for you guys on the screen there?
All good.
Okay. Whoa. I can't look at our stream yet.
Oh, now we're in infinity.
Okay. So we'll go normal speed. We've got the Cardinals and the Colts selected, and let's draft. Oh God. Okay, we're good. Sorry, I did not think I was gonna start right away.
Oh my gosh, Chicago's my guy Ford. They get him at 1.
Oh
That's
man,
perfect.
that's fine though.
It's exactly how we needed this to play out.
Exactly how we needed it to play out. Let's at least for this. All right, hang on. I'm just gonna restart it because let's go get the first pick here. Because I think that's probably the most realistic thing. We'll probably be okay. Why does it do that? Okay, there we go. That'll probably be the most realistic thing that we see from the Colts.
Oh, making a trade here. Okay, I like it. I like this optimism,
right?
fellas.
Okay.
You are better believers than I.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
I hope we do this.
Oh, it's waiting for something. What's going on?
Yeah, but did you just see that? Chicago took Will Anderson first. They don't have to do that. They need to.
No, they don't.
That's like that felt like a Madden draft.
Yeah, they need to trade back to do that. They don't need to do that with the
right. Okay, my thing wasn't responding for a second there. Wow,
they're gonna force us into that 4 spot.
This is impeccable timing.
They're gonna force us. Imagine Ballard's like, I want to make a trade to number 1. The NFL's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. We know you're not.
Sorry, the app's frozen, guys. We can't make the trade.
Dude, Goodell's freezing us out.
Goodell said what?
He won't allow this narrative to be pushed.
That's not allowed.
Oh, Jesus. Here we go. I'm just doing a different window. Something was going wrong there. We'll see what's happening.
So what do you think a realistic package is then to move up? What are the Colts going to have to give away? I'm assuming a future first. Is that, I mean, what is that too rich?
Chicago,
What's
the Chicago?
I don't know. We might have to pulse dance a little bit for this one. Because he wants 2 firsts. I saw a quote from him. I'm gonna try and pull that up while we're working on this. Yeah, so I think it's at minimum. It's probably 2 firsts and a second. And the only reason this is probably gonna be even more than it's worth is the bidding war that we might be up against. So this price might be driven up beyond realistic measures, just for the way. What is this guy talking about? Just for the way the market's going to be. But I'm just going to look up this Ryan Poles quote.
Let me see.
But I think it's at least 2. It's this year's first, next year's first, and maybe both seconds.
Both seconds, okay.
And it won't give us any 2025 options. So Poll said, I know I can get a 2024 one and a 2025 one.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that tweet.
Yep. So, and maybe this is because it's not March 15th yet, but as of March 15th, teams can actually trade the 2025 or 2026 picks if they need to, or maybe that's just how this simulator works. But I think it's at least for next year's first, next year's second, and let's see what they think.
Oh,
wow. I did not think they were going to decline that.
Hey, being a GM is hard.
Being a GM's hard, man. They were driving a hard bargain on my Vikings one I did the other night too.
Yeah.
Who was You know who was screwing me was Ballard too. I was trying to get some Colts picks.
Every time, man.
Every time, man. He's a hard ass.
He's really, he's gonna make you work for it. And that's where I wonder if there's a scenario for the Colts if they don't trade with, like, for instance, if Houston has a better package for the Bears and they trade up to one to make sure they get their guy, because are there going to be other people wanting to trade with Arizona to get in? Like, there's other teams that are hungry for a quarterback that might try to jump the Colts at 4. So it will be interesting to see, because I have a hard time really buying in that Ballard's going to make this trade. But if there was a year that it was like, this would be the year, because it's not about just getting a guy, especially at 4. You have to get your guy.
You're gonna have to get your guy. You're gonna have to give up 35 for sure.
I know, that's the only thing I was trying to avoid, but man, it's first.
No, when we did it last week, 35 was definitely traded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, what are we doing?
For the record, I don't want to do this. Oh yeah, he declined it.
Okay,
yes,
you're not gonna be able to get number 1.
We're just gonna have to go with 4.
Yeah. Let's stick and pick, man. Let's stick and pick. I'm pissed.
You're not getting that.
I'm okay with it for now. If that's the price, I'm okay with it. I don't want to pay that.
Oh, I can get CJ Stroud. No.
Here's one that I think's realistic. The Panthers are probably in the market here more. I can't imagine the Eagles trade up. That's not a bad package, but that seems really weird, doesn't it?
What are they there for? Yeah.
I have no idea.
I don't think so. I like my guy out of Georgia. I talked to his dad. He told me he's fine. I got Jalen Carter coming to Arizona.
You want to stick and pick here?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Nick,
all of Indianapolis and the surrounding region appreciates you for
that. What a splash.
What a splash. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. That one's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
Even take Stroud.
Ooh.
And this is where this gets interesting with Seattle. We talked about it before with Geno, because I am not of the mindset that they are out completely on a quarterback in this draft.
I think be all the way out.
They're perfectly set, as you guys mentioned before, to go ahead and get someone, and you're pretty comfortable for a year or two. And it's like that could time out very well, that Geno's on his way out. You maybe trade him or cut him for his final year, and then you have your guy. So I'd be nervous that if we make this trade, we lose who we're going after. And I tell you, we've heard a lot of Richardson hype in the last couple of days, and I have heard way too much Will Levis hype and seen way too many people put mayonnaise in their coffee. I'm not. I'd be okay. I'd be okay with Richardson as like a second round or a late first round pick, but at 4 or at 5, I'm not going to be happy with that. For me, it's Stroud or bust. But I've been wanting Stroud since week 7 of last year. So like this is
Yeah, within the context of reality, like this might make sense in real life, because you might think, okay, they re-signed Geno. If they want quarterback, they might go with a more developmental guy like a Richardson or a Levis. That might be their guy. But I don't think they take a chance, Kev.
I would love to see you traded, and then they take CJ Stroud.
They take CJ Stroud.
That would ruin the whole episode.
And then we have to take Will Levis at 5, or I mean, it would be Richardson. It does seem like they really are high on Richardson, but it could be a smokescreen. If I'm Irsay and I'm saying I like everyone not named CJ Stroud for the next month, I'm like, oh, look at this quarterback. You ever heard of this guy? We love him.
Yeah, that's a fun top 10. So Levis. Anthony Richardson to the Lions, Levis to the Raiders, 4 Panthers.
Oh, that'd be a great pickup for the Raiders, jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
I see Spoon going to the Commanders a lot. Oh, wow. Big cornerback run there.
Yeah, Ringo. Phillips.
Shout at me if anybody wants to trade up.
We're replacing Poyer. Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. There's.
Yep. Yeah. He's going to Florida or Tennessee, right? Where is he? He needs.
Yeah, he's gonna go to Miami.
Yeah, he's going to Miami for sure.
What do you think, Nick? You gonna help your Bills out here? If
Brandon Bean called me, he's like, "I know you want to do it." I'm like, I love you, but like I don't want to do it.
Right.
You're giving me a pick, as I said last week. You're giving me a pick that I'm not the GM for next year. So why would I do that?
Yeah, literally, we're on 1 year deals.
On a 1 year thing. I'm picking, and wow, Brian Bresci's awesome. We just got a defensive tackle, so we're not going to take him. Who I do love, and you know, there's so many defenders that are like in the top.
Yeah, there are
a lot of defenders. I'm going to go with the offensive guard. I'm going to go with Torrance from Florida, beast.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to need to protect Kyler a lot more better than we did last season and years prior. So let's get him.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Awesome.
Guys on the roster, Justin Pugh aging out at guard. So, yeah, they're probably going to want an injection of youth. We just saw us move on from DJ Humphreys. So, yeah, we're going to try to get younger on that O-line. I like your thinking there.
Yeah,
I don't hate really either of these, Kev. I think these are pretty good value.
Ooh, what do we got? 40 and 115 or 39 and 93. I might take that. I might take that Panthers deal, but you know, I have a better relationship with Frank Reich than most Colts fans do. I think I wouldn't mind doing business with him, especially in a win-win like that. I think that I like that value a little bit more. What are we giving up with the Saints trade?
238.
238 to get 115.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I like that Panthers deal. What do you think, John?
I do too. Moving up 47 spots into the third to move down 4 right here, and I think we've got a good tier of players where I think we'll like the value a lot. So I like this one. The Panthers have identified their guy, and I think there's a few guys we'll like. So
yeah, I'll accept that.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that. I like it. Yeah,
they needed the injured JL Skinner. Okay, I see the vision, Frank. I see the vision.
That one.
I don't know that we need.
Good.
Let's just see what we're looking at. Let's see what we're looking at here.
We could. I mean, we could. I'll trade back. I'll trade. I'll trade all the way out of this thing. I'll have 27 picks for next year, but we're probably going to need to get some help on the. Well, we got an edge spot right there. What do we think about BJ there? Now, I'd also see we got Nolan Smith. We got
Nolan Smith blew the combine up 4-3.
Ojulari is really, really good. I watched him a lot in college.
Ojulari, 36-inch arms coming off the edge. Why not?
Yeah,
man. Well, you know, we were talking about that a little bit in the pre-show, John. I'm more of the Dan Campbell school of give me tape over combine. So
yeah.
Now I like if we're thinking between edge and corner, which is probably where our heads should be.
That's where my head's at right now. Yep.
I like
number 97. That's my guy, number 97 right there. Out of Northwest.
Oh, A squared. That's what they were calling him on the combine. So this kid ran a 4.49 at 282.
Yeah,
just an insane. Yeah, Nick took him Nick took him last week, and then sent me his combine like immediately after.
Yeah, he's my guy. I'm gonna follow his entire career.
I really like the next group of corners
that we'll come back to.
That we'll come back to.
Yeah.
Okay. And I really like either BJ or Nolan Smith right here.
Let's go with BJ. I'm liking that.
Let's do it. He's got a good, solid lineage. We've seen some good production out of his big brother Aziz in New York. So yeah, let's slam it.
I love it.
I love that pick.
Yeah.
All right. The Jets got with the Alabama stud, Henry To'o. I don't know how to say his name.
Ooh.
To it. That's what they say.
Yeah.
The Vikings take the all-time leader in NCAA pick sixes, Emmanuel Forbes.
Oh yeah, of course. Mentioned that guy last week. Ooh, the Bills go running back. We're only focused on.
There we go. That opens the door for a Naheem Hines reunion in Indianapolis after he gets.
There you go. What do you think of this one, Nick, my boy?
Look, the Giants. Come on, Joe Shane. You know I love you. I can't take your thing though, because I got my guy, double.
Oh, there he is.
Double A, man.
Lock it in.
Lock it in.
Nick is sprinting to the podium. We've got our guy.
He's running to the podium. He's going to draft them. That's awesome.
Why the hell is Kalijah Cansey on the board, you guys?
I don't know, but he can be taken off right now.
Yeah, he could, couldn't he? Get out of here, Poles. We don't want to hear from you, dude. Jeez. The gall on that guy to call us back.
Draft Cansey. It's the move.
Yeah, I think I'm good on those trades. Yeah. Oh. So, man, that's a bummer because we don't really have a need there. But
yeah, that's true.
90. We're back on the board at 93. Yeah, we don't really have a need with Cansey. We just did commit long-term to a really good defensive tackle duo. He does bring something different to the table, but I think we stick to our plan here and go with a corner.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, if we were, if we were going real full dive in, or if this was my Madden franchise, I'd probably be making a trade. I'd probably be picking Chansey right now and then immediately trading for the next pick or something to get my corner. If a guy fell like this, because I do like having that versatility up front.
Mm-hmm.
And like Nick said, like, how's he here? What do we, it feels like one that's kind of fallen to you. So in a different exercise, I might do that. I might actually just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to trade back in sometime around 82, 84 and still get a corner and not wait 10 more spots. But I don't mind taking a corner here either and sticking with it.
Yeah, I'd be, outside of this exercise, I think we go corner too. But I would be really interested to see at the NFL level how creative people get with Cansey, whether they play him on the edge much. He is a pretty dense guy at just 6 foot 275, but he's a quick twitch pass rusher and he could be pretty flexible along the front. So I'll be really interested to see where he goes. He's getting top 10 hype, so I don't know what the hell he's doing here, but
and I'll lean on your expertise here as far as these corners go, because I don't really have a particular favorite amongst this grouping. Is it
looking at this group? I do like Brent's. He's kind of he's one of those late risers. He measured at 6'3" at the combine. He's one of those late risers. I think he's a true boundary corner. So is Jalen Jones though. And
I think you're sleeping on Caillou Blue Kelly right now.
I know. I like Kelly too. I just feel like Jalen Jones might be kind of that quintessential Gus Bradley cover 3 boundary corner. And I think from a fit standpoint, that's where I'd want to go. I think Brent's is of that ilk as well with his length. But I like Jones. All right.
There we go. I like it.
We're happy.
Blake Hodges Tomlinson has one of the greatest names of all time. I might draft him later.
LT's nephew.
Oh, that's sweet.
See that?
Oh, what do we got? I don't like that. I'm not interested in next year's picks.
No thanks.
Exactly.
I'm applying Nick's logic to that. Yeah, no, I'm not here for the 2024.
I'm applying to different jobs after this.
Yeah.
You know the Magic Johnson meme where it's like, I'm not going to be here.
Yeah. That's the one. So do we look for an offensive lineman here?
That's what I was thinking.
What's your guys' usual strategy? Is there at any point that you just say best available, or is it purely situational? So for instance, we just had one where we might have taken a best available. Do you guys in your strategy, if you get to like say round 5, are you just like, hey, look, I'm just taking best available at that point because I'm not sure any of these guys are going to fill gaps? What's your kind of?
It's around that range for me. I feel like first 3 rounds, I think you're looking to fill a starting hole if you can.
Fair, right? Or someone in part of your rotation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's at least your hope. So that, you're probably aiming a little bit more towards fit there when you have needs. So for that reason, as we approach this pick, I was thinking offensive line. Best we can.
That's where my head was at too.
But I'm
I
not.
agree to a certain extent, but at the same time, I'm still trying to get as much competition as I can.
Yeah.
With positions of need. So
with you there. Of these guys, we've got the offensive lineman of the year, Olu. Great collegiate player, 5-year college player.
He's a legend.
We talked about Andrew Voorhees pre-show. I don't know if you saw this, Nick. Andrew Voorhees tore his ACL at the combine and proceeded to put up the most reps on the bench press of anybody there by 4 with 1 foot on the ground. He put 225 up 38 times. Oh, and
that's awesome.
If that's not dog in him, I don't know what is.
It's really impressive. Yeah, I can't wait to see who he plays for the next, in a year from now. But yeah, somebody's going to take a shot at him.
If you were if you were picking, well, you are picking here, Kev. But if you were in the real GM's shoes, do you feel that the bigger need is at guard opposite Quentin Nelson or tackle opposite Braden Smith? We kind of have a Band-Aid at center with Jake Brendel, so I think we're okay bringing in maybe a late round guy for competition with him. But we might want to target a starter at tackle or guard here.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's a really good question. And there's kind of 2 ways for me to answer it because I personally I believe that left tackle is the more important position of the 2. So I would say that because of that, then that makes it the bigger hole. But Raymond, who played left tackle in spurts for the Colts this last season, there is some hope that maybe with some better coaching and another year under his belt that he might be something there. Whereas there are no names in the right guard spot. So in that sense, you could say that the right guard's hole is bigger because they don't have anyone in place there. So I don't know if there was a standout left tackle, in my opinion, I would at that point say, let's go there. But if all things are even, then I would say maybe we address guard first.
Okay. Yeah, I like that thinking because and Bernard Raymond did have some or Bernhard, I don't know how hard he pronounces the H. But he did show some promise last year early on and didn't decisively win that job though early on in the season like some people were expecting. So I think that, you probably do have some more hope there that he's able to develop into a passable starter than you feel anywhere else. And some of these guys, you just want to see if they have some guard flexibility, whether it's with their frame or with where they played in college. So Stromberg does have starting experience at both guard spots. I thought he did. Center the past couple seasons, but he's played a little bit all over at Arkansas. I like Stromberg over a guy like Whitebler, who might be more of a true center. Same with Forsyth. But I really liked Forsyth. Actually had some pretty good tape against Jalen Carter. They played him like week 2 or something this past season. And Carter was at the one tech a lot of that game and played some zero over top of him, and he had a really tough assignment, played really well. But I think I like Stromberg a little bit more as better guard flexibility. So
I like the flexibility, with Stromberg.
That one. And hey, maybe he wins the center job, and you get a kind of scrape the bottom of the barrel and find another guard later on. There's more waves to free agency than meet the eye for sure.
Right. Yeah. At least he's got a chance to plug one of 2 holes.
Right.
I like that.
Right. Nick, how do you feel about helping your old buddy Brian Dable out here?
That's a decent deal. I'm just looking at San Francisco having 3 straight draft picks, and I'm like,
I know. I noticed that
what's going on? Is that real? Like,
what are they going for?
That's awesome. We're on the clock. All right, we got this guy. All right, we're on the clock.
They walk up with all 3 picks. Just here, read them all.
Yeah, they should. No, they
Hey,
don't.
Kev, if you're able to see the comments,
Yeah, I can.
you want to pull those up because when I jump over here, this is what our screen looks like. And
Yeah, the last one we've got, I can actually. We've got. It was from Lee saying that the Colts want Richardson.
There we go.
Which
all right, I'm gonna accept this trade from the Giants.
Okay,
I hear that.
Yeah. Damn it! Wait, who did they get?
Zach Evans.
Oh,
here we go.
Niners.
They're not gonna take all 3. They're gonna trade one.
Wow. Yeah.
No way.
Okay, 102 and 105 coming up for you here, Nick.
All right, awesome.
Ooh, and we're at 106, so don't take my guy at 105.
What's an OC?
Don't even think about it.
Does that say OC?
Is that offensive center? What is that?
Yeah, as opposed to
the defensive.
Yeah,
offensive
coordinators.
Yeah, nice.
Hey, you get comp picks for him. Maybe that's what he did.
All right, what is that? Is that Israel Adesanya right there? No, that's not I'm not gonna get him. All right, so obviously I made defense a need, and we haven't really gone anywhere outside of defense except for my 350-pound offensive tackle that I got. So now, I could still get. Okay, all right, I'll get him later. I'm gonna go with not the running back. We're gonna go with Luke Weipler at Ohio State. I love that. We're gonna get
Rodney Hudson.
Just the best offensive lineman we can get. I think that's a good move. And now we're on the group. Okay, here we go.
Oh, Bill, you don't trade up.
Yeah, we're gonna take it. No, I'm taking that. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for doing
Fleeced.
You better not draft my guy.
Fleeced.
Beautiful.
Ooh, okay. Where are we at now? So we've addressed a lot of issues. What was it? We've
got a starting guard. We feel like
our guard. We've got what did we get? We got our quarterback. What am I missing? Am I missing? We got someone on the edge too, right?
BJ Ojulari.
Yep.
So we've got CJ Stroud. We got CJ and BJ, and then we did go with Jalen Jones out of A&M to play the deep third for us.
We could.
So I would usually be slamming Will McDonald at 106 if he was here. Criminally misused at Iowa State. I mean, he played 4-eye and off-ball linebacker and some 3-tech even at times for no reason. And he's a true edge and he might have the best bend in the draft. But I don't know that we double dip on edge.
Yeah.
And a guy who's a big draft crush of mine is Deion Henley out of Washington State. He's gotten some loose Fred Warner comps. But maybe it's not that same kind of ceiling, but it's that type of skill set where he's able to trail tight ends up the seam. He's able to play the deep middle in Tampa, and he's able to play some one-on-one man with backs out of the backfield and tight ends as well. A really, really strong cover linebacker who's just shot out of a cannon in run defense. Maybe not the most gap disciplined kind of guy. But I think linebacker is still a big need when you consider the question marks around Shaq Leonard's injury. We did let Bobby Okereke walk, and we're really leaning really hard on EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin coming into this season. So I think you get another body in there.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Wait, if he's that good, can I trade up for him?
I don't know. It's a call.
I want him.
you got next pick.
Really
you can get Will McDonald with the next pick. Yeah,
he does sound good. I'm in love with him right now.
Plus, Deion Henley's he's named after my favorite member of the Eagles, so we're locked in right there.
There you go.
That hurts. That feels like Steph Curry going right before the next pick, man. That's just not good.
Hey, try taking Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn before Steph Curry.
Try drafting Kawhi Leonard and trading him for George Hill. I'm going to sit this one out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
Oh,
oh man.
Oh, Popovich. All right. You got 107.
Okay, I know who I'm going with. I'm going with my boy. If I can't get Fred Taylor 2.0, at least I'm going to get
DeMarvion Overshown.
DeMarvion Overshown. I want you on my team. I'm
We're
going to learn how to
slamming it.
pronounce your name.
Look, Cardinals, you don't need to take a linebacker in the first round.
Yeah, no. DeMarvion.
Yeah, no, I like.
Damn it, the Patriots got my guy. They got Travarius Hodges-Tomlinson. That's not good.
He's gonna be a star too. You know it.
I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, you're up now.
We wanted him now.
On.
I just saw Sean Tucker. I thought it was Sean Taylor we was talking about. Okay. This is tough. I have no trade. Nobody wants to trade with me. That's fine.
If you're talking all-name team, we've got Servassier Dennis.
Servassier Dennis he's a good name. Obviously, we still have Alu on the board, the Michigan legend. I think he should stay up in there in like the northeast there. So, all right, cool. At this point in the draft, I'm looking for some offense to spark my team. I've seen a lot of good things come out of Penn State with receivers. Chris Godwin, one of the names that I've seen. So someone who I like right now is Parker Washington, wide receiver, Penn State. That's what I want.
Oh, I thought I lost him. I was like, right there. Yeah, that's a good pick. He's been flying up some boards as well.
Right.
I like that one.
Oh, the Bills got some.
Oh man, there goes the strongest guy potentially ever to the Cowboys.
Oh yeah,
they like they're just really.
The Titans get Alu. I like that fit. Although I would have liked them more in Detroit.
Yeah.
Let's go with. Ooh, nice running backs pick right there.
Oh wow! You just took my 3 favorite guys in a row. Those. I really like Bryce Ford Wheaton and Tyjae Spears.
Ooh, that. In a future 7th. Ooh, that might be a pick I like. Right?
That's a free pick for me and you.
Yeah. Let's go. Right. I'm good with you. I'm not.
That's fine. Oh, they wanted them back to back.
Yeah. See, they just pulled a Kev right there. They're like, wait, I can't decide, so I'm just gonna trade for the next pick. Dude.
Cowboys have not invested enough yet in the running back room. They think.
Oh, good.
So that's fine.
That bodes well for Zeke.
Yeah. Kev, you mentioned pre-show that. I don't want to hang you out to dry here in front of our viewers.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it.
You mentioned pre-show. You might be comfortable, at least planning to move off of Jonathan Taylor before a big extension.
Yes. Yeah. Not an idea. Like not my first vote, but the Colts have had success with it in the past with Marshall Faulk to Edgerrin James and then Edgerrin James to the Super Bowl transition with Joseph Adai, Dominic Rhodes. So
here are my thoughts on this. You remember Jonathan Taylor coming out of Wisconsin and all the mileage he had on him and that being a big concern.
Yep.
But that didn't stop the Colts from taking him, and it panned out. There's a guy who has just about as much mileage on him as any running back coming out. He could have come out last year, ended up tearing his Achilles against Ohio State.
Oh, and he's a beast.
He was carrying the Gophers to a lead over Ohio State before that injury. Ended up coming back to school. 1.6 touchdowns a game for his collegiate career. Mo Ibrahim out of the University of Minnesota. I think he might go higher than this. And some of those tread on the tires, mileage things might be a little overblown, and this might be a front office that isn't scared away by that. And this is, a 5th round pick on a guy who could be a workhorse at the NFL level. You haven't seen him break down yet to this point. Obviously the big injury, but he came back and did the same thing again.
And we've seen a couple of guys bounce back. It's been a while, but we've got our Willis McGahees, our Frank Gores. We've seen guys bounce back from these injuries and stay healthy for long periods of time. So I love that. I hadn't caught his name on the board there, so I love that. As soon as you mentioned it, I think that's a great option. Even if we're gonna ride with JT, because I'm not sold yet on. I love Deion Jackson. I think he is a pending free agent anyway. And then there's Zach Moss, who I'm not sold on 100%. So I love this pick.
Yeah, and Deuce Vaughn would be a cool like Naheem Hines type to add to that backfield. But I like Mo Ibrahim. I think he might even give you the flexibility to feel comfortable if JT goes down again, or if you feel like long term you're going to move off of a guy like that. I've got to vouch for my Gophers here when I can.
All about it.
180, Nick. Oh, 180 and 184 coming up.
Sorry, guys. I was just watching my new wide receiver, Parker Washington's highlights.
Oh, no.
Jack of all trades. Such a stud. I love him already.
That's
great player.
That's great. We still got some. Okay, all right. I didn't realize how many picks we had left. That's nice.
Yeah.
We can change this franchise around.
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, as we get into these later rounds, we talked about, best player available.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I drafted Jackson Player in my Chicago draft. And I just love that he's out of a big school, Baylor. He's got a lot of experience there in some big games. And, he's gonna help out Jalen Carter, and Jalen Carter's going to help out Jackson Player a little bit. So to bring in 2 rookie defensive tackles to a new, defensive scheme with Jonathan Gannon, that's what I'm looking for. Let's go for him.
Yeah, and there's nothing there. And Jonathan Gannon comes from a place where they stack that position up and get depth and get rotation along the defensive front. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. Who do you like at 184?
Okay, so here, obviously, Zach Ertz has gotten up there in age, and we don't really have too much of an option at tight end. We're going to try to help Kyler in the long run. We're going to get Payne Durham out of Purdue right here. I think he's a strong just option. Could be a safety blanket type of guy.
If I'm not mistaken, he's 6'8".
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah, I like that pick too.
Payne Durham. Bills go Dante
Demas. That'd be nice.
Yeah. I hope that happens.
Broncos back to back.
Washington, good draft pick.
Kicker at 194.
And then Deuce.
Nice. Okay. Quarterback. Tampa goes quarterback.
Who'd they get?
Yeah, pause that.
Jake Hayner.
Yes.
Okay.
Lock it up.
All right.
Moro Ojomo has been flying up boards as well. He looks really good.
Various Owens, safety of Houston. Okay.
Byron Young just ran a 4.39.
Also, I have a correction from earlier from Lee. He was actually talking about the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Cincinnati just drafted a quarterback. Joe Burrow, watch out.
Whoa, look out.
There's no way Byron Young falls this far.
What a draft pick by Houston.
What a draft pick. That kid just ran a 4.39.
Yeah, there had to be some kind of weird police report if that happened.
Yeah,
something weird happened. Oh, so we're up now. Okay.
So while we're here, I'm just going to talk about my big – we don't have to take him. I don't even think we're going to take him. But Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green is 6'4", 300 pounds, and he played over 90% of his snaps at true edge.
Oh.
Yeah.
So just a really intriguing physique to skill set to usage kind of thing with him. I think he'd be really intriguing for probably not this kind of defense, but for any type of like Belichick tree scheme, any of those really multiple fronts, some of those big nickel fronts that they deploy. And you line up a guy like that, like Adrian Claiborne out on the edge in those old Patriots defenses, just a crazy build to play so much edge and to have those pass rushing chops. So he's like a really interesting guy to me.
Yeah, unless we have a very good if we have a good offensive line candidate here, I would think, because they have 2 holes to fill, or they have at least 2, maybe 3 holes to fill in the offensive line. So if we have a guy that's sitting there like, okay, here's a quality potential starting candidate. Otherwise, I like what you just said, because we're not certain what we've got on the edge. I know we picked one guy, but we could use some help there. And I am always infatuated with defensive linemen that can rotate and play multiple positions. Like if you have the ability to play in the tackle position, but also go out and like you said, in some of those more unique fronts, I'm all about that. So you sold me on your Bowling Green guy right there.
That's good. I want to get his name out there. I've been crushing on him.
What was it again? I'm sorry, I already. Carl Brooks.
Carl Brooks, yeah, Bowling Green. Connor Galvin's gotten some buzz as well. For a 7th round guy, he might be worth taking a flyer on out of Baylor here. And then we've got 238 coming up as well.
Okay.
So we're gonna have another flyer coming up. I think we go offensive line here, as infatuated as I am with some of those D-line guys. Jalen Redmond included as well. Keandre Coburn included for me as well. But yeah, let's go Connor Galvin. Great size.
Sure.
I want to say 6'7". And maybe just a little competition for Bernhard and just potentially a guy who could take some snaps out there on the edge. He's at least got the physical makeup to do so. And this could be anything here.
But a kicker, right? Do you Lee wants to know if we would draft kickers. I'm not always against it.
Jake Moody's gotten a lot of buzz. I couldn't remember his name out of Michigan, but a lot of people are clamoring for the Michigan kicker on draft Twitter, I guess. From a philosophical standpoint, I guess my answer would be no. Because the only recent example is like Evan McPherson, and I don't know. We saw the in the year of their Super Bowl run. I think it was Week 5. They played Green Bay, and him and Crosby just went back and forth, missing kicks to go into overtime.
Yeah.
At the end of the game. So there's never a sure thing right there, and so much of it is mental at that point. Like I don't know if there's ever going to be a good enough kicker prospect, like from a physical standpoint, to just slam that pick, even if it is a 7th rounder, just because you never know, and it's just something that you can get on the UDFA market just as well. Like there's nobody who we want. There's nobody who are worried about taking our kicker if we don't, I guess. But if you're in love with one, sure, burn a 7th, I guess. But
I think from a philosophical standpoint, right here, you're taking Carl Brooks.
yeah. If we're talking philosophical, he's still here. You're right. He's still here. Let's do it, Kev.
Yep, all in. I'm good.
We're all in. There goes.
We're gonna get one more. I can't believe we got one more.
Dwayne McBride, I like him.
We're gonna just. Ooh, who grabbed Max? Ooh, Max going to Green Bay. Look at that.
Oh, so I like the Iowa State safety here.
Will Bumper Pool be drafted? That's the question.
I do like some safety depth as well for this team. I would like that a lot. So that was a secondary need that was in my mind. If we could get if an opportunity came, so this seems like it could be it.
Yeah, Rodney McLeod walking. Julian Blackman has been fine. I really like Nick Cross coming out. Had some snaps taken away from him by McLeod, according to Chris, who I consulted on this matter. And obviously Rodney Thomas came into a starting role last year. So it's a decent room, but I think worth getting another body in. And there we go. We've got our full mocks, and let's take a look and see how we feel about who's on the board. I like the way this one looks right now, especially the way you, Nick, the way you stuck in the trenches here.
Yeah.
When you think about 2023 being kind of that wash, and you think about developing these guys, offensive guards, usually takes them until a year or two to really get a hang of it. So I think investing high in a guard and having him coming into his second year when Kyler's back under center, I think that's a prudent move. And A squared is sick. Weipler to kind of take over for Rodney Hudson down the road, and Jalen Carter, of course, his on-field value hasn't changed. So, we'll see how far he falls for other reasons, but I really like that fit still.
I love it.
You're big on that. Let's check out how we ended up. And this looks like a strong class to me as well. Looking back, I probably would have liked to have invested in offensive line a little earlier, with some more premium draft capital, just in retrospect. But I do still like a lot what we came away with in totality. So, I don't have any misgivings necessarily about the class as a whole. I think we've got a few starters and really good depth across the board. So
yeah, I'm happy with it. My first mock of the year for the Colts. So
man, we'll get these up on social, out on Twitter. So we'll see if we can get some more thoughts from the people. But that was fun, guys. It's an episode ran a little bit long, but hey, we're having a good time.
It's my
season. Hey, Lee, thanks for sticking around, man.
Yeah.
If Meg's still in here, thanks for popping by. Anyone who tuned in, we really appreciate you guys. We have fun doing this, so if anybody's willing to hang out with us, we appreciate you. Without further ado, we'll start to wrap up this show. Kev, thanks for joining us. This was really fun to have you on and talk a little bit of horseshoe. But tell the good people where they can find you. You do host the Bounce, our NBA flagship show on Stadium Rant here. But where else can the people find your work?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I really had a blast out here. So hope to come by again. And yeah, you can find me right here every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, with James covering the NBA on the Bounce. I also cover the NBA for the Last Word on Sports, so you can check me out there. I just wrote an article to tell you who the 5 real contenders for the NBA championship are. Other than that, podcast, YouTube, Bite Size Sports. So I cover all kinds of sports there. So you can find me there all the time. I'm literally always running my mouth. But again, thank you both for letting me share some time with you. I had a blast.
Yeah, man. It was a pleasure on our end. And, without further ado, also, you know what, Nick, tell the people where they can find your work as well. You just mentioned an article you were writing early on, but what else you're working on these days?
Oh, yeah, man, just Stadium Rant. I mean, main page, starting to write again a little bit. And Kev, you better have my Knicks in that top 5.
Ooh, they were getting there.
The Hornets apparently, but
take them seriously though.
They're on the rise. I wouldn't want to be playing them in the first round.
Yeah,
100%.
There's no. I'm a little out of touch with my basketball compared to football, but I heard a cool tidbit today. There's no, the only 2 duos with more assists to one another than Brunson and Julius Randle are Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield.
Wow.
And I think it was Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon or something like that.
Yeah.
But hey, that's a cool little stat that little lefty duo they put together is really panning out. So
Pacers are going to be dangerous in 2027.
Right? Yeah, man.
Lee likes the Cavs. Right. Love that Cavs team, Lee.
Oh yeah,
love that team in the East.
Cavaliers, he says. Nice. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for coming by. This has been Necessary Roughness. We'll be back next week doing similar things. But as always, I'm John. That's Nick. We were joined by Kev tonight, and this is Necessary Roughness on the Stadium Rant Network. Thanks again for coming by, guys. We'll see you later.
Peace.